What's going on, guys? Nate here, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I often get a lot of comments that ask how I look so good. The answer is simply, I just moisturize twice a day. However, even more frequently, people have been asking what mods I'm using in Skyrim to make that game look so good in the background. So that's what I'm going to show off today. This is my complete visual load order for Skyrim, and a few other mods for what I believe makes to be a pretty damn good looking Skyrim. Links to all of these will be in the description down below. It's important to say before we begin that what makes Skyrim look so good are generally mods called ENBs, which introduce new or enhance already existing graphical features within Skyrim, such as ambient occlusion, depth of field, better lighting, and a whole lot more. Some ENBs are more taxing on your system than others, but in my opinion, a good ENB is by far the most important part about making your game look good, and typically you'll only need about one or two of them. After ENBs, I think textures are the second most important thing that come into play. You can download retextures like many of the ones I'm about to show off in this video that are at crazy high resolutions, up to 4K. However, again, I find ENBs to be way more important, as even with 2 and 4K textures, the game will look awful without modern lighting effects, so make sure you find an ENB you like if you decide not to follow this list to a T. They are very important. But without further ado, here are the mods you can use to make Skyrim look next gen-ish. To kick this list off, my ENB preset is Nyclix's ENB Reshape. Nyclix's ENB makes a variety of changes to color correction, shadows, ambient light, bloom, and a whole lot more, in a way that I feel preserves the atmosphere of Skyrim, while still seeming more realistic and complementing the other mods on this list. At number 2, and I'm going to be numbering these, not in any particular order, just for organizational purposes in the description, bear with me, number 2 is Enhanced Lights and FX mod. This mod does as its title implies, and improves lighting throughout the game, creating new light sources, adding reflections, giving individual locations their own unique lighting colors based on their weather, and more. This mod is one of the ones the author of Nyclix actually recommends be installed with theirs, so you can imagine they go together quite well. Number 3 is 2 mods that go together very well, Skyrim Flora Overhaul and Verdant, a grass plugin. Both of these mods essentially do the same thing, that being expand upon the game's ground vegetation by generating a lot more of it and giving grass, flowers, and bushes a much more realistic feeling while still not going over the top. Skyrim Flora Overhaul is particularly performance heavy, however, so do be wary of that. Number 4 is Vivid Weathers. This is a mod that adds in hundreds of new weather effects and lighting features to accompany them all. Sunrises and sunsets look breathtaking, and night skies also get an overhaul. This is not to mention the improved cloud textures that accompany it. Vivid Weathers is one of Skyrim's most popular mods right now, so chances are you've already heard of it, but if not, I would highly recommend this one. Number 5 is the Static Mesh Improvement mod. Now we start to break away from the ENBs and lighting and look at the raw textures. The SMIM increases the polygon count to many static meshes to make them appear more realistic and pop out more. What this essentially means in English is objects like ropes, lanterns, ingots, benches, charcoal, and a lot of other things you don't really pay attention to have been considerably enhanced. Over 9,000 object meshes have been improved with over 30,000 individual placements. This is a huge mod and is certainly essential to anyone looking to make Skyrim appear more aesthetically pleasing. Number 6 is the Forgotten Items Retexe. This mod, much like the previous one, helps to improve the visual quality of items that you don't really notice until you do, so think cups, glasses, baskets, all that lovely stuff. However, unlike the Static Mesh Improvement mod, this one does nothing with polygon count. Instead, it's a retexture, so you're getting a higher resolution with these items. There are also plenty of other individual mods that you can find that'll improve the quality of specific, otherwise miscellaneous objects, but to cover all of those, we would definitely need a few more videos. Number 7 is Asmodeus Special Edition. This is a 2K texture overhaul to much of Skyrim's architecture, roads, and even some terrain, with some 4K textures just thrown in the mix of it for good measure. It presents a much cleaner and sharper look to pretty much everything that it covers, but it does seem to break away a bit from the traditional feel of Skyrim when it comes to buildings at times. However, in my opinion, I see that mostly as an improvement, and the mod goes very well with everything else on this list. At number 8, I've paired 2 mods together again, Nordic Snow and Geckos 4K Mountain Textures, as they both replace commonly found individual textures. The first one enhances snow to give it a more crystallized and reflective look at 2K, while at the same time not being so reflective that it impedes your vision like so many others do. The latter of these two makes it so that mountains have a bit more of a realistic feeling to them. Mountains are often going to be something you'll find yourself scaling, especially if you intend to follow the main questline, and I found them to be rather dull. There are other mods that retexture mountains very well, but I found Geckos to be the highest quality and the one that suits my personal preference best. Number 10 is another 2 mods, Simply Bigger Trees and another one called High Quality Tree Bark. You can probably give a good guess to what both of these mods do here. When combined, they make trees look larger and at a higher resolution. Curiously, I found that bigger trees really adds to the atmosphere of Skyrim. If you also have the recommended Flora mods installed, forested areas begin to feel a lot more alive and vibrant with these 2 extra ones. And finally, at number 11 is a water mod, Realistic Water 2. This mod alters the way water flows to make it more realistic, while at the same time adding in a variety of sound and visual effects to improve your immersion. Raindrops can now hit the water in a more accurate way. Icebergs will crack and gurgle. Waterfalls sound loud as hell, and on top of that, there's an option to change the water color to a more fantasy-like teal shade. And that short description doesn't really do this mod justice. It's truly a surprisingly massive one, despite covering something as minute as water. So I do highly encourage you check this one out, even if you're not trying to emulate the same load order. It's a really fun one to mess around with. And this about concludes the graphical mods and retextures, but there's still a couple other ones that I'd like to cover that don't necessarily improve the game's visuals directly, but they introduce more modern effects to it. These mods are Footprints and Wet and Cold. Footprints does what you might imagine. It gives your character footprints when stepping on snow. This is indeed compatible with Nordic snow as well. It's small, but a really cool improvement to me. The other is Wet and Cold. This mod gives you frosty breath whenever you're in a cold region and makes your clothes drip wet when it's raining or shortly after you've been in the water. The mod also changes NPCs' attire and behavior to wear clothes more appropriate with the modern weather conditions. And that really concludes our list. All of these mods are 100% compatible with each other and available on the Skyrim Special Edition Nexus. Most of these mods are also available for original Skyrim on its Nexus too. However, personally, I prefer Special Edition, primarily because of the 64-bit memory, and it makes the game just run so much smoother. Links to each one of these mods' specific Nexus pages will be in the description down below. Furthermore, I'm also going to go scour Bethesda.net to see which ones of these, if any, are available over on consoles, and if I can find any that are, I'll include a little bit of a tag next to their name in the description that says whether or not they're available on PS4 and or Xbox One. If you use this load order exactly, your game should look the exact same as mine. However, do keep in mind performance is a factor. Depending on your system, you might lose anywhere between 20 and 30 FPS. Personally, I have a GTX 1080, an Intel Core i5, and 16GB of RAM, and I'm able to usually get about 60-ish FPS. However, if you have a slightly less than that system, you're probably going to get worse. If yours is better than that, then you'll do better. But with that, we're going to wrap up. I hope you all enjoyed. If so, a like rating is always very much appreciated, and leave a comment down below. What are your favorite Skyrim visual mods? Maybe I left one you like out. Anyway, guys, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Peace out, everybody.